friends! Today I would like to share with you my December daily from 2017. This is a project that I have done several years in a row now. In fact, 2017 was my 11th year of following through on December daily with Ali Edwards, and just love this project and can't wait to start again for this year 2018. But I wanted to take some time to show you what I have in my album. There are many companies out there that are producing all kinds of kits and products that you can buy to document your December daily, but I decided to sort of create my own and do it my own way. So this is just an old vintage book that I found, and it was in great condition, hardcover book, and I just loved the neutral gray color, and so I decided to use this one for my December daily. What I do with my books is on the inside, I just take out all the pages and then repaper them with whatever kinds of pretty papers that I can find. And so in this case, I had a lovely star paper that I thought was very fitting for Christmas. And so I just lined the inside of the cover, and then I put in an elastic binding system similar to the traveler's notebooks, if you've ever seen those. And then I create various notebooks that I then just slip through each of these elastics, and it holds it all into place. If you're at all interested, I actually sell some of these books and a variety of notebooks and other types of inserts on my website on repapered.com. So if you're interested, you could go and check it out there. So last year for 2017, I actually had 4 different inserts that I put into my album, and essentially it is meant to sort of follow the idea of a traveler's notebook, only because I made the notebooks myself, I made them a little wider than the traditional notebook just to give me a little bit more room. And then the other thing that I love to do is reuse the papers, the beautiful papers that stores use for their shopping bags. And so here, this one, the Nordstrom shopping bag, was a lovely silvery color, and I just thought it was so fitting for Christmas. So I just left the words there and used it, fashioned it into a cover for my notebook, and then just used regular white paper inside. But you can see how the cover then I stitched around the outside and just made it my own personal notebook. So I ended up with 2 different notebooks. This was the first notebook, and I'm going to go through this one today. This one is a folder, and inside, again, just a way to keep all the bits and pieces that you collect through the Christmas season. Some of it's cards, some of it's invitations, some of it's just pretty packaging that I had, and so I've kept it all in one place. So this one is a little folder, and then I created a second traveler's notebook album, only this time I used one of the pastry bags from Starbucks. So you can see here it was their logo for Christmas in 2017, and I just again reused that paper and made it into the cover of my album and continued my December daily that way. So that was notebook number 2, and the very first insert actually that I have is just a plastic page that, again, I just cut it to the size that I wanted, and I sewed it along the 2 outside edges and left the top open. And then I just put in, first of all, this was just some calligraphy work that I had done. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and I love that saying, and so I made it into just a little print here that I cut down to size and slid it in. And then I did a prayer for December. I know with Ali Edwards, she often does a reason why, and my reason why is always, you know, the spiritual side to Christmas. And so I decided to make my reason why into a prayer in 2017. So what I ended up doing actually was wrapping this piece around my first notebook. So when you first open my December daily book, this would be the first thing that you see along with the prayer, and then flip through my album. And then on the back side of this album is where I inserted just a holiday checklist, and so I had just printed out some things that I wanted to make sure that I documented, and obviously I didn't keep up with my little red check marks, But this was just a checklist of things that I wanted to try and capture throughout the month, and then I was able to put that just in that back folder. So this is what I'm going to show you today, is just this first part of my album and this first notebook. But I'm going to back up for a second and say that one of the things that I love to do on the inside of my covers is to also add these little library pockets. And I do have a few of those in my shop as well. But I just made it again out of some coordinating paper, and then just took an actual library card that I had in my stash somewhere and wrote that this is again, sorry, here I'm seeing it's the 10th annual, so this year will be 11th. Sorry about that, but here my annual family Christmas Advent, and I just tucked that in that front cover. So then you would see that little overlay that I did. And then the first thing I love to do in my December daily is to put in a calendar. So I had just added this calendar at the beginning, just helps me to keep track of some of the days and whatnot. And then I'm just going to basically flip through some of these pages and not spend too much time detailing them out, but just to give you a glimpse. So again, as I said, I'm basically scrapbooking more in a traveler's notebook fashion. So I'm using a 2-page, sometimes I'll do 2 days in the spread. But here I had done my journaling, and then I always love just how vellum is so fine and see-through. So I do have a machine that allows me to cut this out. So I had written this in my handwriting and then just cut it out on my little machine. And again, just slipped it in. When I make my own notebooks, the other bonus to that is that I don't have to bind it right away. So I actually just put it together with an elastic band. That's all that's holding the pages together, so that when I want to add in extra pages like this vellum one, then I can just slip it through that spine, and the elastic allows me to make that adjustment. And then of course there's a vellum page that coordinates on the other side. So we'll get to that in a moment. So that was Shine. And then here was just a full page photo of my tree from last year. I love full page photos, and I actually should use them more, but they're just so effective. So this was a nativity that we had gone to, again, just a simple photo, journaling on the right hand side. Here was a tag. I wrote all my journaling in between the lines on this tag, and then did a double photo on this side. Day 4 and 5, I actually spread across 2 pages. So this was one story from the 4th, and then I just separated it to show that it's 2 different stories by slipping in, again, just a little pocket. And you can see here that I literally have just slid it in, and the other side shows up later in my notebook. But for this one, I just took an old pocket page and I trimmed it down to size. I filled it with some little glitter bits and then stitched it across the top to keep all these sparkly stars inside. So it just helps to kind of show that there are 2 pages to this design. So here was the 5th. The other thing that I'll mention is that last year I decided to make my own numbers, and so I had done a whole sheet of these numbers and made it like a flag, and you can see that those will show up on every page. I just like the consistency of it and just kept it very neutral with the black and white colors. On the 6th, my daughter was sick, and so it was all a TV watching day, but we settled in around the fireplace. And again, just used some pattern paper in the background, some very simple journaling, keeping it very manageable throughout the busy month of December. Here was the 7th. Again, just a photo at the top, got my number flag. Here was a card that was included in the kit that I was using last year. And actually I should mention that this all the papers and all the little bits other than the flags, most of them are from a digital kit by One Little Bird, and unfortunately she is not in operation anymore. She doesn't do any more designing, and that was a sad day to hear that, because I loved her designs. But I do have to give her credit that all of these digital papers, and all of the little bits and pieces are from a kit that she designed last year. So here was another full page photo. On this one, I actually made a mistake and printed it the typical 4 1/4 inch wide, which is the size of the regular traveler's notebook size. And so I just sort of out of habit, and because I had that template, had printed my photo that size, and then remembered that I actually had expanded my own notebook and it was wider than that. So just to accommodate that, I decided to just trim this page and make it a more narrow page. And then to still keep it easy to flip the page, I just added one of these, I don't even know what you exactly call them, but just one of these little tabs that I found at the stationery store. And then I just stamped a piece of paper that I had slid into there. So you can see a full page photo here. And then I just wrote on it with a white gel pen marker. And one note with doing that is make sure you give it time to dry. Often when I'm scrapbooking, I am racing too much and I don't always give it the time to dry. And so I have to be careful because I do often smudge them. But this one I managed to let it sit aside long enough. So here I essentially did a full page photo as well, but I divided it into 3 separate photos, kind of just showing the process of my husband doing some baking that night. He was wanting some shortbread cookies very badly, and so he made his own. Here we had gone to a market, and so just to do some of our Christmas shopping. It's a market that we visit often here in our hometown, and along the way I had picked up a number of sort of the cards, the business cards that they hand out, and just loved them and the designs. And so I attached them with a piece of washi tape, and then I just did my journaling underneath of them. But looking back, the tape was starting to peel up, and so what I ended up doing was just take another piece of patterned paper and folded it over the edge of the page, and then I just ran that through my sewing machine to hold it. And so it's now going to secure that washi tape to make sure it doesn't let go of any of these bits or pieces. And then I just incorporated that paper into the design on the page on the back as well. And this one again was a double photo page, just tucked in some fun little pieces along the side. And then here you can see is where's the other half of that pocket that I had done with the sequins. So here it was with the sequins, and on this side again I had just taken some of my handwriting and I used my machine to cut it out, and then I just slipped it in this pocket, a little fa la la. Because this was a story about music, I thought that was kind of fitting to throw that in there. So that is the other side to that pocket. Here on the 12th, I did a fairly large photo, and technically it would be a full page photo if I had done it vertical, but I decided to do it horizontal. And so it spread across the seam of the fold in the center of the notebook. So I just cut my photo so that it would be able to bend there. Instead of having the photo actually fold, I just cut it so that it would, I would be able to have it still bend properly without crinkling the photo. And so that was how I was able to add a much larger photo across 2 pages. Here again was just documenting having coffee with some of my favorite girls, and again just used some pattern paper in the background, kept everything very simple, used a little shipping tag to do my journaling on, and called that day done. Now here's where you can see the other side of that vellum piece. So here I did the word Mary, and again it just, actually if I slide it through just a bit, you can see I planned it so that the words aren't actually touching each other. I don't know if you can see that, but I left a space in the center so that when I printed it out, I knew that this piece would be where the binding of the notebook is. And so it gives it a little more security when it is being held through the center of the album. And then this way too, it's not cutting off too much of the words that you can't read them. So again, that just allows me to slide that in through the binding, and then I can keep you know, one on 2 separate pages. So this one was just documenting me finishing up my Christmas shopping, picture of the tree at the mall. And then this was the last day that I was able to fit in this first notebook. And this one was just documenting, or I was telling the story about a new banner that I had added to my collection, Christmas collection. And so I just put a photo in there to include that. And then we were at the end of that album. And so this is the first part of the first half of my album, if you wish, for 2017. And I just wanted to give you a look through that and kind of how I put this all together last year. And then I will come back and in another video show you the other half to all of this project. Thanks for listening.